All right, good morning, good morning, good morning. Coach Kevin here with our daily law of attraction training class for about 30 minutes. Going to hop into my screen share real quick.
Hi
And
there, Kevin.
hey,
Nice
good
to see
morning.
you.
Nice to see you too, Joseph. Hop into my
Some reason I, for some reason, you generally, and now it's lower than usual. Your volume is
my volume. Can you hear me now?
a little bit better. Yeah. In general, in most of your videos, your volume is a little bit low.
Okay.
And oh, I think because I have phone mic. That's right. That's right. I got you. I'm trying to catch what you say. Sorry, yesterday was I didn't realize I had to kind of step out a couple of times, and I didn't realize you were actually ending a little bit sooner, right?
Well, we had finished about the last chapter about 2 minutes before, and I'd asked questions. Everybody was good, and I asked you, and I didn't hear from you. So
Yeah, because I had to just step out for a second. So,
okay, that's all right. Did you have any questions yesterday?
well, I'm following, and it's interesting. I definitely want to read that book.
Cool. All right. We're going to hop into it right now. For those who are watching this as a recording, just want to share a couple things with you real quick. We have a Facebook group where we archive the recordings of these daily trainings. You can find it at Daily Law of Attraction Training and Support with Coach Kevin. See that right here. Facebook URL is facebook.com/groups/ Daily Law of Attraction Training. So that's where you can find us. Come join us. And as far as the book that we're working on here, hang on one second. I need to do something here. Okay. Um, we are in a book right now studying a book called The Jackrabbit Factor. Jackrabbit Factor, you can get a free copy of it very easily. Go to Google, type in Jackrabbit Factor or Jackrabbit Factor ebook, PDF or free PDF into Google, and you'll be able to find it. We're about halfway through this book at this point. It is written differently. This person who wrote this book happens to have been, happens to be a friend of mine. We became friends back in, late 2005 and developed a strong relationship in 06, 7, 8, 9, stayed in touch with each other and developed that relationship. This person was a Bob Proctor coach and facilitator before she went off and did her own thing. And she taught a seminar called The Science of Getting Rich. I happened to attend that 3-day seminar, had a huge impact on my life, watched my income multiply, my monthly income multiplied by approximately 10 times what it had previously been. So a 10-time increase in monthly income after about 4 months, 3 months of the seminar. And then I was given some additional material by Leslie to study that had been created by Bob Proctor. Went through that, and then again 4 months going forward. Over the next 8 months, my income was 10 times, roughly 10 times what it normally was. So that's a big increase for anybody. If you're making $1,000 a month, which I wasn't, I was making quite a bit more than that. But if you're making $1,000 a month and your income had gone to 10,000 a month, that would be huge. Let's just say that mine was greater than that instead of saying how much it was, but my income multiplied 10 times. That is significant. And as a result of the training and the reprogramming of my subconscious mind, I've been an entrepreneur and business consultant ever since. And as of last year, a little bit over a year ago, actually, now time keeps flying really fast. A year and a couple months ago, came across Bob Proctor, actually reached out to me through his office, asked if I wanted to be a coach and facilitator for his programs and go through the training to do that, which I did. And since then, now I do my own thing. That doesn't mean I don't care about Bob or anything. I love Bob. I've just now kind of graduated into finding out what I'm good at. And what I'm really good at is the one-on-one type coaching stuff. I'm also good at group. However, I've just got this knack for helping people get unstuck and being able to do it pretty darn quickly. So just wanted to share that with you guys. If you would like to talk to me about coaching, you can reach out to me about coaching at coachkevinsparks@gmail.com. That's coachkevinsparks@gmail.com. Normally one-on-one coaching in the past, it's been $10,000 to $20,000 a month. I'm doing something, I'm experimenting with something because I think it's working. And I'm offering, here's what it is, for just $1,000. I'm offering 8 coaching sessions. 8 coaching sessions. Normally it was $10,000 for 6 months, and that was an hour a week per month, plus some different material. However, what the 8 coaching sessions would be is 30 minutes, 8 coaching sessions, only $1,000. Why can I do that? Here's what I found out. I spent an hour with people, but about 30 minutes of it was laser focused. And 30 minutes was really the instruction and help that they needed. The other 30 minutes was more relationship. Now, I believe relationships are important. However, there are ways for you to share with me what it is that you need help with and get it shared quickly, and for me to share with you in a relatively quick manner what to do about it and get moving. So 8 coaching sessions for $1,000. That's not a forever. I'm only going to offer that to 5 people as a test. I think it's going to go very well. And if it is, that's wonderful, because then we can get a lot accomplished for a lot lower price and in a lot less time. It's a win-win. It's a win for you guys because you get the very best coaching I can give you, which is that one-on-one attention. And it becomes way, way, way more affordable. $1,000 for 8 sessions with me, half hour each. That should unstick pretty much anything you've got stuck. So I'm just putting it out there. I'm going to let the first 8 people that ask me about it and want to pay for it take advantage of it. So if you feel so inclined to do so when you're watching this video and you happen to be one of the first 5 people, or if you happen to attend my class tonight that you're already a part of and you hear me talk about it there and you decide to take advantage of it, I think it's going to go extremely well. Again, something extremely affordable. Some people may think it's not, but for $1,000 for 8 one-on-one coaching sessions, first 5 people, let's get you unstuck. And what those sessions will be is not assignment of something to study necessarily. It's going to me be giving you very specific advice related directly to you and whatever it is on each session that you want to work on. So, all right, here we are, Jackrabbit Factor, Chapter 11, The Choice. The officer questioning Felicity was not about to waste any more time. If she had something to say, she evidently wasn't going to say it in the next 10 minutes. And he was becoming bored. Finally, he stated calmly, "Ma'am, I'm leaving. You think about what I told you, and let's hope he turns up, for his sake as well as for your own." Just at that moment, his radio bleeped on with a coded message and a chirp. "Oh, see, I gotta go. But you let us know if you decide to start talking again, right?" And with that, he quickly gathered his things in a haphazard bundle, stuffed them into his briefcase, and closed the latches. He could have said, "Lady, you're a freak," and it wouldn't have been any clearer than the condescending body language he displayed. The worry in Felicity's eyes deepened, and the feeling of hopelessness filled every last part of her. The officer stood, causing the aluminum-legged chair to squeak as he pushed it backwards on the aged linoleum. He automatically and without intent tipped his hat, motioned for his partner to come along, pushed the screen door open wide so it banged hard behind them, and they were gone. Felicity was stunned. They aren't going to do anything. They think I've done something. Her anxiety suddenly mounted, and she cried angrily, "He could be dead right now, and they aren't doing anything about it." With her foot, she shoved the chair that was still tipped over, and it hit the wall with a bang. Matthew came out of his room, rubbing his sleepy eyes. "Mommy, what was that?" He stopped and looked at his mother. He stepped back into the bedroom when he saw When she saw, when he saw, she had black around her eyes, white in the corners of her mouth, curled tendrils plastered to her forehead, and streaks on her cheek. Not knowing what to think, his lower lip pouted out and his eyes turned glassy. Felicity could see he was about to cry. She opened her arms and he reluctantly approached her. She hugged the little boy and broke down. Oh, honey, I'm sorry. I sort of kicked the chair. I didn't mean to wake you up. Felicity forced the words because she had so convinced herself that something was wrong that she struggled to provide him any comfort. What she needed was someone to hold her close and then offer her reassuring words. But nobody would. Nobody could. Nobody knew. I want to see Daddy now, Matthew whined. But he's not home yet, sweetie. How come? Felicity opened her mouth to answer, but couldn't think of what to say. What's wrong, Mom? I'm scared. Looking into Matthew's concerned face, she surrendered inside. She knew deep down that all she imagined had been without real evidence, and it wasn't fair to take her little 4-year-old on this imaginary panic trip. Part of her still worried, but she forced herself to hope. It wasn't the natural way to think. It wasn't the easy way to think, but she had to imagine that Richard was well and that they would see him again. She glanced down at her palms and realized that her own thoughts, her own imaginations, had caused them to get very moist. She looked through the door into the bedroom mirror and saw her face, makeup smeared and cheeks tear stained. Finally, she saw the dried icing in the corners of her mouth and the cracker glob on her shirt. She appeared deranged. No wonder the officer had treated her the way they did. She looked again at Matthew, and with new resolve, she knelt down in front of him and held his arms. Gazing directly into his reddened eyes, she said tenderly, Matthew, everything is fine. Daddy is just fine. Felicity's voice crackled, and we're going to see him now. You understand? Matthew's face softened, and he said, okay. He placed his arms around his around his mother and sniffed. Let's go. We'll find him before it gets dark. Felicity took a deep breath and stepped into the bathroom to spot clean her shirt and wash her face, patting it dry with the terry cloth hand towel, and then hanging the towel neatly on the rack. Finally, it was also time to pick up the fallen chair and place it neatly next to the others at the table. She gently pushed it in and then touched it once more affectionately, feeling new resolve. Felicity realized she felt better. She truly didn't feel so worried, just hearing her own voice speak words of faith. What if you're wrong? A little voice inside her head taunted her. She spoke to herself. When I have a choice, I choose to believe. Merely believing couldn't be any more harmful than the damage she may have already done, worrying Matthew so. What if she was wrong? She'd cross that bridge when she came to it. All she had was now, and all she would allow herself to do was believe. Chapter 12, Violations. Richard was also on his way. He had left the path, and he had a rabbit. Looking toward the people on the path, he felt a compelling urge to help them learn what he had learned. He had a rabbit. Anyone could have a rabbit, truly. He couldn't contain himself. He wanted to show them what could be theirs. He held up his rabbit and waved, just to see if anyone would stop and talk to him. Wouldn't anyone come ask him how to do it? He showed them that he knew how. Why didn't they want to know for themselves? Or why didn't they want to know for themselves? But deep down, he knew that they were saying to each other, look at that guy showing us he's better than us, or, oh, what an unfortunate man going to lose his soul over a lust for rabbits. He also knew the little voices in their own heads. Yeah, a rabbit would be nice. Maybe someday a rabbit will fall into the path right in front of me too. Or I knew I should have gone to school to learn rabbit anatomy so I could catch rabbits just like him. He also knew there were those who were very close to stepping off the path, but were paralyzed by the same fears he had experienced. Fearing risk, fearing answer, fears, fearing abundance, fearing success. What if I lose my way without a path? What if I don't know how to handle a rabbit? What if I catch one and it gets away, and then I can't ever find another paper sack? What if I catch one that snatches the only sandwich I have and runs away? What if people laugh at me? What if I fail? Taking one more look at the crowd, Richard had to simply carry on. He was breaking new ground, charting his own course. He looked ahead at the meadow that lay between the path and the woods, and he pressed forward. He seemed to travel for hours, retracing his steps almost. This time he walked in the less traveled area off the road. Along the way, he came to meet many a man and woman with a rabbit in their clutches. In fact, he had never realized how many people had discovered the secret, but now that he knew it, he saw them everywhere. With a heightened awareness, he realized they must have been there all along. He gazed admiringly at the people who seemed to be strolling home, so happy and accomplished. But his feel-good, warm, and fuzzy emotions were interrupted by two men who seemed to have arrived out of nowhere and were whispering emphatically at one another. Richard turned to see who they were and saw that the men were clawing at each other's sleeves, teeth gritted, whispering angry words that Richard couldn't quite decipher. Finally, one of the men thrust his hands off of the other man's shirt and bending down into the grass as best as he could, he clamored to get ahead of the other man, and they both seemed to be pursuing a rabbit. Splitting up, they attempted to surround the creature, and the faster one leapt ahead with a full body attack, trying to pin it down once and for all. The other man, wearing a camouflage jacket, pounced on top of the first, and the yelling began. Richard could not determine the fate of the rabbit, but he heard the scuffle and watched them fighting each other viciously in an attempt to win the prize. Eventually, he heard a loud thud and a groan, and the second man in the jacket stood, triumphantly gripping the hare in his fist. A forceful nudge with his foot to the fallen man, and he walked away, limping and gloating gracelessly in his victory. Richard rushed over to help the fallen man get back on his feet. The man lay there groaning, but when he slapped the ground angrily with one of his hands, Richard could see that his pain was that of wounded pride, more than of any physical injury. I'm fine, I'm fine. Are you sure? Who was that guy? Richard was genuinely concerned. Oh, he's just my best friend, or should I say, my ex-best friend, first-class creep. The man brushed off his pant legs and struggled to his feet. He and I decided to go rabbit hunting together. We were sick of the sack race and decided to do it by getting ourselves a rabbit. We finally found one, and when he got really irritable, I realized he wasn't really planning on sharing the spoils. You saw the rest. Richard brushed some loose grass off the back of the man's flannel shirt. Bowing his head, the man held up his hand casually and said, "Thanks for the hand. Richard, the name's Richard Goodman. Gavin, Gavin up now. Thanks again," he replied, then limped away. Gavin up now? You got to be kidding. Richard mused at the collection of characters he had met along the journey. At every turn, he seemed to be presented with intriguing, perplexing, confusing, enlightening, and even mind-bending encounters. Richard looked over at a few of the rabbit people and the evidence of their success as they walked and wondered how many of them had captured their rabbits by living in harmony with God's natural laws of thought and how many had actually contended for it. I think I'd rather do it God's way. It's hard enough catching one of the little thumpers without having some other guy pounding you into the ground at the same time. As Richard continued to reflect, one more question kept gnawing at him. How is it possible that some people held in their hands 2, 3, and up to 6 rabbits by the ears? He knew how hard it had been to catch one, even without competing for it. How did some of these people have so many in their fist? Dozens of people of all kinds held multiple rabbits, short, tall, heavy, thin, men, women, even an occasional adolescent. It seemed that all kinds of people had managed to catch several rabbits. He would have expected only the most athletic and agile to have been able to chase and wrestle a rabbit down with one or more already in their fist. He made eye contact with one of the shorter, heavier ones. He was a pleasant-looking, clean-shaven young man in his 40s, with a large round belly and a twinkle in his eye. He wore a snugly fitted hunter green polo shirt with a shiny black belt that disappeared under his gut in baggy off-white trousers. His shoes were glossy slip-ons with leather tassels. The man looked at Richard's rabbit and grinned. With a knowing twitch in his head, the man beckoned Richard to walk alongside him for a while. Richard, of course, didn't need further encouragement. The student was ready, and he was eager to learn what this man knew. The man obviously had not wrangled the 4 rabbits he held. That would have been physically impossible. Besides, his clothes showed no sign of dirt or grass stains like Richard's had on his own clothing. I know what you're thinking, because I was just like you only a short while ago, the man said when Richard caught up to him. Richard looked again at the abundance of rabbits in the man's grasp. Oh, really? He enjoyed the mystic aura that emanated from these people who knew so much, and he thought it interesting that the more he learned, the less mystic or mysterious all of it really was. A bird sailed by overhead and he looked up. It made him consider the laws of aerodynamics and how scary it would have been for people to see humans put them to use centuries before they had been discovered. Imagine the alarm that his forebears might have felt had they seen a 747 airliner soar over their heads. Oh, how mystic that would have seemed. Just like the laws of aerodynamics, he realized now that these laws of thought had always existed too, but he didn't understand them before now, or know how to use them to his advantage. He remembered being taught all his life to doubt not, fear not, and now he was finally beginning to understand why. It just simply isn't good for me. The things I want and need are repelled, literally, when I allow myself to entertain the negative emotions of doubt and fear. He recalled several times when he had allowed himself to think about things he didn't want. What if that tornado on the horizon is going to come rip my house apart? He was 8 years old, and he remembered actually visualizing the destruction, feeling the horror as though it was already happening. It then began to come his way, and out of sheer terror, he rushed down into the cellar and closed his eyes and ears, and then forced himself to picture the house standing strong and unaffected in sunny, peaceful weather. After all, it was the only thought which brought him peace. To pretend things were just the way he wanted them to be. He wanted to escape the storm's wrath, and the only way he could was in his own mind. He tuned it all out to live completely in his fantasy, and the house remained. Richard thought back on that experience in awe. Had he actually had any influence whatsoever on the elements? He wasn't sure. He remembered other experiences when he had imagined something that didn't come true, and he deduced that it was probably because he didn't want it bad enough or long enough or believe innocently enough. Or maybe it just wasn't an appropriate desire, and he expressed gratitude for a God who still knew what was best for him. But as for providing for his family and being with them, nothing but peace came as he thought about that. To him, that meant that it was a commendable aspiration and that God would help him achieve it as long as he did not violate the laws of thought. Finally, the short, heavy man in the green polo shirt derailed Richard's train of thought. Really, he said, I know what you're thinking because I was just like you only a short while ago. I myself only had 1 rabbit, and I had worked up quite a sweat to obtain it. So now, you want to know how to catch more than 1 rabbit because the first one was quite a doozy, right? Oh yeah. Richard was able to sense somehow that this man was living in harmony with God's laws. Maybe it was a glow or energy that he was subconsciously picking up. He couldn't understand how he sensed it, but he did nonetheless. The feeling was just as identifiable as the times when he would walk into a room and know instantly that Felicity was in a cheerful mood, even if he couldn't see her face. The man's eyes twinkled, for here was someone whose mind was open and who was eager to hear more. What's your name? Richard responded with his full name, Richard A. Goodman. Then the man remarked, well, Richard, I'm guessing you discovered that to visualize the rabbit in detail brought it to you. Right, Richard replied. Would you believe me if I told you the rest of my rabbits basically cocked their head to my hands and let me take their ears? No, you can't be serious. Then Richard remembered the comrades and how the rabbits had returned to them effortlessly as well. I am serious. The first one is always the hardest. Let me guess. How you pictured it in your mind was kind of vague, wasn't it? And the rabbit was somewhat hard to see once you found it. Am I right? Richard thought for a moment and said, you're right. You're absolutely right. I had a hard time seeing it in my mind, and when it appeared, it was also hard to see and far away. In fact, the first one I couldn't catch at all. The next time I visualized every detail I could imagine, and it appeared just like I had seen in my mind. But when I lunged at it, it ran away, and I nearly wore myself right out capturing it. Still, I caught it, and here it is. Richard held up his furry loot. I was just on my way home to share it with my family. The man grinned. Obtaining more rabbits is a piece of cake if you know what to do. Richard still felt the urgency to get home, but he chose to sacrifice a little more time for what promised to be the education of a lifetime. A smirk crept over Richard's face, and he had to know. Is your name something like Ina Everything Thin? Huh? The man looked at Richard like he was nuts. Oh, never mind. Okay, then. What do I do? The name's Randy. Random Olive. He looked questioningly at Richard again and then continued. So, how badly do you want to know what I know? The man was blunt and unapologetic. Richard sighed, knowing full well what he must inevitably happen next if he was serious about gaining this higher level of understanding. He thought for a moment, and then a latent streak of rebellion emerged. He responded challengingly, I have no more sandwiches, Mr. Mollo. The man shrugged and gave Richard a look of pity. I'm sorry for you then. If you can't find a way to make the necessary sacrifice, then our conversation must end here. Richard wised up. Attempting to meet the man at his own level, he said, now hang on a minute. Okay. Richard held up his hand as if to say, wait here, and he closed his eyes. As quickly as he could, he created an image of the two men conversing and tried to feel the wonder he expected to feel when he learned the secret. He knew he had done just that when the corners of his mouth automatically turned up. Opening his eyes, he confidently told the man, I'm going to learn what you know. Oh, are you? The man was amused at Richard's underdeveloped comprehension and insolent remark. And what makes you think that I'm going to share what I know? Because I visualized it happening and I felt it happen. So now I know it will. You provide me some compensation and I will explain to you precisely why the conversation you visualized won't happen. With that, Mr. Mollop winked and strolled away. All right. This is definitely some good stuff coming up here as I'm remembering the book. So I'm kind of excited to get into that. Our time for today, though, we've hit time. So, hey, Joseph, Crystal,
Thanks,
any
Kevin.
questions? Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, it's interesting. That's very interesting to, as a build, it's like I'm beginning to kind of, sense of where it's going. It's the underlying kind of current of the sense of the book was kind of there almost from the very beginning, even though I haven't started from the beginning. But it's um, it's definitely interesting.
Yeah. Again, I love it because it's visual, it's memorable, and so once you've read this book, a couple different times, it's easy to turn back to those visuals when we're actually out in the real world trying to do our manifesting and thinking. So I really enjoy, not just enjoy like from a story, but it's one you can actually enjoy as entertainment, but understand that it's way beyond entertainment, and that's what
Very well.
we're getting at.
Very well written book. It's like, I mean, it's like you can tell that it's a very skilled writer of the nuances and you know, the psychological kind of complexity of life. A lot of it is very nicely captured in there. So it keeps so it kind of runs deep to me the way I've what I've seen so far. Very
Yeah.
interesting.
What's really funny about the author, if you prior to learning law of attraction and how things worked and whatever, her background was math major,
Wow.
not author in English and stuff like that. So she definitely was guided to write this book. And again, she did a great job of doing it. So, any questions, or are you good?
Yeah, I just have a couple of points. I just want to bring up a couple of chapters that you're reading.
Awesome.
One of them, I guess, when he talks about the rabbit, the first one is the hardest one. Is that necessarily true? Like obtaining your first plateau?
Yeah, because you're at that point you haven't experienced the success yet.
Okay.
So you're only have the ability to experience it in your mind, right? At that point, what what people do, well, you'll see as they go on in the story. So stick around, right?
Okay.
There's another gentleman that's going to come along that wants to catch rabbits, and Richard's actually going to be able to help this guy before he
Okay.
goes back to his family. But what you'll find is it is it's interesting. I've talked a lot about financial thermostat and subconscious programming, which is true. What I didn't say in the past, though, is with that subconscious, with that thermostat, once you learn to change it and you get it changed and it works for you, now your belief in the process is there. So once your belief in the process becomes stronger, now what you do is you just keep turning back to the process and going through it again for the next thing that you want. And you have faith in the process and in the laws. And once your faith is there, it becomes easier. It
Mm.
is it's going from $10,000 a month to 20 or 30 or 40 or $50,000 a month was definitely easier than going from $5,000 a month to six figures.
Okay. So I guess that is the hardest because you have to he's at the point of reprogramming his mind
Correct.
to obtain. So I guess that's why it's the hardest for the first.
The other part too, why it's hard, is
Okay.
most people see in this book. You know what you have right here?
Mm-hmm.
Coaches.
Oh, okay.
And
Okay.
most people at the beginning won't pay for coaching because
Right.
they're like, I'll pay when I have money.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
every time that he wanted to learn something, he had to give his sandwich. So a
Mm-hmm.
sandwich is probably, in my mind, right? The sandwich that he gave to get the first coach was equivalent to, let's say, a month's salary,
Mm-hmm.
whatever that is for a person, or 2 or 3 months or whatever, right? It's like, so he had to give up the only thing he had, which was it was everything he had, but he gave it
Mm-hmm.
up. But then very quickly, he got the help of the mentor, and in a short period, he had a rabbit.
Mm-hmm.
Now he wants to go from, let's say, six-figure income, and now he wants to, but it seems so hard to get there. Now he
Mm-hmm.
wants to know how these people have jumped to, 7 and 8-figure incomes. But in order to do that, he still needs a coach, but he needs a coach at a different level. What we keep wanting to do is shortcut it because we're like, I'm not going to spend money to have this person help me out. I never spend money on myself or stuff like that. And so they don't see it. I've watched the people who've paid me the most money have made the most money. Just
Okay.
plain and simple. The reason I offered the $1,000 coaching for 8 sessions is I hope that person will end up making 5 or 10 as a result. Maybe not like per month, but like, oh wow, we multiplied that $1,000 and it turned into 5 or it turned into 10.
Mm-hmm.
Now I could use some of that money, my rabbit, to get myself to the next level. But people think that they're going to go to seminars and read books and get there. And I didn't get there that way either. I had to have Leslie as my coach when I got started doing this, or I wouldn't have made my way as quickly as I did. I mean, in 4 months, I went from $5,000 a month to 5 to 6 to 10 times that as an average income. But I wouldn't have done it by myself, just trying to study the material. It just wasn't going to happen. And people don't realize that you need to compensate too the person that's trying to help you. Everybody wants to do it for free, but the compensation is part of the law of attraction, saying you gave the best you could give. Now I'm going to give back to you. But if you hold back and say, well, I'm just going to do everything for free, then the law of attraction is going to treat you that way. Okay, well, I'm going to give you scraps.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But people don't want to hear that.
No, it's the truth.
People don't want to hear that. But again, I'll bring something pretty sweet. We'll see what
happens. Okay.
Anyhow, if that interests either of you, reach out to me. But
okay.
I'll see you in the morning.
Okay, great.
All right. You guys have an awesome day.
Hi, Crystal. Joseph. Kevin, I have a quick question. So, so Richard is right now, he's asleep, right? This is in his dream.
This is in his dream. And when the book ends, I don't want to give away the punchline, but the dream is essentially when he wakes up out of the dream and he's reunited, there will be a reuniting. Then the book will go to, okay, a few years, it's going to go into the future. And it's going to show the success that he had. And matter of fact, by then he's going to have an older son that's a teenager wanting to know how he can get a car of his own. And his dad's going to teach him how to get a car, not by giving him the money, but by teaching him how to materialize the car that he wanted.
That's very interesting. So he runs away and he actually in a forest, and he's kind of anxious and worn out, and so he falls asleep. So the whole thing is in his sleep.
His side of it is while his wife is awake and in reality, so to speak. Yeah.
So the whole thing happens in one day, one night. So the whole thing is very compressed in terms of very deeply psychological, in the sense that he's so anxious that he actually maybe on another level, his subconscious mind is
teaching him
because there's the saying, and you study this kind of psychology, that there's a certain amount of under high pressure, under extreme conditions, amazing things happen. So he don't want to have to
that. Yeah.
I think he went into that kind of very high internal psychological situation where that inner power unleashes and responds to, with other words, crisis. So he went into that point of crisis, and the answer came from his subconscious, from his higher self, in his dream, in a form of dream. That's remarkable.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, isn't it?
That's very nice. So, yeah, that's great. Appreciate your insight and contact. Personally, I'm right now very involved in several places, like totally maxed out in terms of just trying to make a very, very radical shift, because with any business, you have to build up a different business from ground up. And I've been self-employed. I've been my own boss, but not in a scalable business.
I see. So do you have a business of your own right now?
Well, I have my old, I've been both teaching music. I have students, but also piano, guitar, and vocal. But my main job, I've been like a high-end piano tech, a tuner, service on any level. So, but the problem is that the whole thing came to a stop. Now restarting very slowly. But when things came to a stop, I immediately started, looking for. So I got involved in coaching programs and stuff to what could I do that's scalable, and. So that's why I'm standing. I just appreciate you in that sense, and I'm committed and actually paid in 2 different groups. So I'll tell you more. But thank you so much, Kevin. So I'm gonna kind of lurk in a little bit longer
that's all. Hey, keep coming. I do this because I enjoy it. This morning thing, there's no charge, So.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate it, and look forward to hear more. So. Hear you and see more. My thing is right now, I just want to go back and catch up with the past sessions as well, because I really like the vibration and appreciate the sense of direction.
Yeah, you're very, very welcome.
Thanks so much.
You're welcome. You two have an amazing day, and I'll see you tomorrow.
Have a fantastic day.
See you tomorrow.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.